it's a great privilege to work with people on this level of consciousness, and I'm grateful to be empowering you and initiating you into working with people in this way. So it's my great blessing, and I know it will be a blessing in your life. Now we're taking a spiritual approach to healing because life is spiritual. Life is a spiritual experience, whether we are able to recognize it or not. And hopefully as we mature, we understand that. Our word spiritual comes from the Latin spiritus, which means breath. And the foundation of our work here is, you see, there's one breath here. It's the same breath, absolutely the same breath. It's breathing life into each of us and is sharing life with each of us. Do you hear that? There's one life here. We live in this ocean of life, this ocean of breath. And it's this breath of life that shares this one life, this universal life, this infinite life. In the ancient wisdom of India, the name for the creator is Brahma. And Brahma means an ever-expanding breath of life. Brahma is a fount of creative intelligence. So here's this, the nature of this life is it unfolds its creative potential. The nature of life is just through everything that grows, everything that lives is an avenue for unfolding this infinite creative potential. So here's this one life, this breath of Brahma, and it's breathing life into each of us. And in every moment, in every breath, we are the unfolding of this creative potential, of this universal life. We are the cutting edge of the unfolding of this creation. That you are the face of the mystery. You are the face of the goddess. You are the face of this amazing, infinite, mysterious intelligence that unfolds through all of us. The ancient wisdom tells us that for most of us, we live in a condition of ignorance, in which we believe we are our story. We believe we are our minds. Believe we are this ego mind. We believe we are this story. We believe we are this suffering. And in the ancient wisdom, the cause of our suffering is ignorance. Now it's interesting, when we talk about knowledge, we're not talking about book knowledge. When we're talking about healing this ignorance, when we're talking about addressing this ignorance with knowledge, it's more like the biblical sense of the knowing. It's a carnal, it's a total bodily experience. Okay? That the knowledge that we're talking about is not mental. But the knowledge that we're talking about is a knowledge that's lived. It's knowledge that infuses every cell of our being. So, the foundation of this work is this understanding that we get from the most ancient of sages from ancient India. They have, if you study yoga, you will hear that the basis of yoga philosophy is a philosophy called Sankhya. Sankhya, the Sanskrit term Sankhya, means to enumerate. And enumerates the play of consciousness, the basic principles on how an ocean of intelligence unfolds this creation. And Sankhya is not merely the basis of yoga philosophy, it's the basis of all Oriental philosophy. Because Buddhism is kind of Hinduism light, or export Hinduism. And Bodhidharma took this wisdom based on Sankhya to China, where they chant in Sanskrit, to Tibet, where they chant in Sanskrit, to Korea and Vietnam and Japan, where they all are chanting in Sanskrit, because it all has its root in this ancient wisdom of India. And all of the orthodox philosophies have the root in Sankhya. And if you go to the Sankhya texts, the first sloka, the first verse in that text says, the purpose of this knowledge is not to get a better job. Not the love of learning like European philosophy, but the purpose of this knowledge is the total, the final, the complete, the permanent annihilation of suffering. Do you hear the words I use? Total, final, complete, permanent annihilation of suffering. And the suffering that they're talking about, the Sanskrit word dukkha, does not just mean, the stereotype poverty or disease. The suffering that they're talking about is translated in Thailand as alienation and in Tibet as disenchantment. If we were talking about the suffering in the United States today, we'd be talking about guilt or shame or insecurity or inadequacy, no matter, or existential terror. Ontological insecurity, ontological terror, that no matter what you do, there's always this shadow of fear. There's always this part of you that's playing out this drama of inadequacy. There's always this story of my suffering. And the thing is, each of us has a story of our suffering, how our parents disappointed us, or this alcoholism, or this sexual abuse, or this poverty, or this tragedy. But each of us has that story. And 5,000 years ago, the sages were saying the purpose of this work is self-knowledge. That this knowledge of our divinity is our inherent nature, is divine, and it is our inherent nature to recognize this divinity. So the work we're doing today is based on what we call today transpersonal psychology. A man by the name of Ken Wilber, who has been called the Einstein of the consciousness movement. One of his earlier books was called Spectrum of Consciousness. Come on, Ken, where are you?
Ken Wilber?
Ken Wilber. And Ken showed that for different levels of evolution, there were different psychologies. Some that work with the ego and the persona. Some work with us as a biological being, like Reichian, our sexual energy. But that the capstone of therapies was transpersonal psychology, where we found our healing, we found our identity, we found our well-being in what he called unitive consciousness, an experience of the oneness of this creation. In Eastern philosophy, this is called Vedanta. Veda means to know, and Vedanta means the culmination of knowledge. What we are capable of evolving into as human beings is the knowledge of our divinity. And this is the culmination of knowledge, self-realization, the realization of our divinity. And one of the things that's been happening on our planet is that the earth, the mind of the earth has been called the noosphere, the intelligence of the earth. And the earth is a living, conscious being, just like you or I. And her intelligence evolves through each of us. And there's been such an incredible leap in consciousness on this earth that this self-realization, which used to be the exotic ambrosia of a rare saint, is now available to all of us, kind of like a 100th monkey thing. So I'm just really encouraging you to get that what we're going to be doing in this week is immersing you in an experience of the self and demystifying spiritual practices that promote self-realization. And I just want you to just really get that self-realization is your natural state, that everything you're seeking, you already have. And it's only a simple act of recognition. And everything that we're going to be talking about, everything we're going to be doing here is focusing on this simple and natural recognition of your divinity.